You look back and think, had I retained those, we did 12 in about 2 years. We were quite prolific. That portfolio today would be worth 1.3, 1.5 million. The council made an error on it, I believe. It was the council that converted it into a retirement home, and then realised they didn't have the correct planning. Because it was student planning, not care home. It was low entry, 10% assured, known developer, and proximity to the beach, to the university, and Sunderland in general.
Today I've got Andrew Brassey alongside me.
Hello, pleased to meet you all.
Andrew, so you've been in the industry
quite a few years. Quite a few years. Started down in London doing a degree. That was 1978 through to 81, and then started in property in 1982. So if I can get my brain into gear, over 40 years.
That's it. And at residential estates, how many years have you been
7.5 now? Would have been June 18. June 18.
So you're at a previous property company, weren't you? That we sort of linked up with. That's how we got to know each other.
And that's how we met through a previous company. Yes,
that's it. And yourself, you're a property investor.
I am indeed.
Yourself, like some of the other consultants here. So can you just talk through some of the properties you've purchased over the years and the reasons behind them?
I guess my property sort of involvement personally started in 1986. I think it would have been. Holiday cottage up in Scotland. That's the first purchase. So it wasn't even, that was as a first time buyer. It was a holiday cottage in Scotland. Didn't work out, unfortunately. But since then, I've had 2 stints of buying property, renovating it, and selling them. When you look back, you think, should I have kept them? We did. 2 friends and I. One was a chartered surveyor, the other was a qualified electrician, and we renovated properties in Ellesmere Port. Bought them in the 90s, early 90s for 6,000, 7,000.
Wow.
Spent that sort of money on them, and then sold them at 20. So we were making somewhere in the order of about £6,000 in those days, split 3 ways.
Which at the time you'd probably say, well, it's good money. You don't know then, do you?
Absolutely. And it was a part-time profession, shall we say, whilst I'm still working in a estate agency. But you look back and think, had I retained those, we did 12 in about 2 years. We were quite prolific. That portfolio today would be worth probably 1.3, 1.5 million.
You might not be sat here, Andrew, if that was the case.
I could assure you I wouldn't be. Maybe. But as an income, that would have been producing probably 8,000, 9,000 a month.
Wow.
On income. And given that it was in the early 90s, had we put it on repayment mortgage, they would be owned outright. And it's just hindsight.
Of course it is, But it's interesting because people will maybe now look at the market and go, well, it's not going to grow, it's different then. But you'd have had the same thoughts at that point. People would have, because if you had known that, of course, you would have kept those.
That's right. And then when the economic crash happened in 2007, I went back into doing that, into renovating, and did probably half a dozen over a 4-year stint. And again, you look back and think, should I have retained it? But I needed the cash flow. I was doing it to it was an income, and the rental income wouldn't have been sufficient to allow me to move on. And like a lot of people, I had to borrow money to finance it. I didn't have the cash in my back pocket, and the interest rate, given the scenario, was relatively high. So it was just a question of buying and renovating, selling on.
But great experience over the years, and for you to feel it yourself as well makes it easy when you're then advising clients. And
it gave a great insight into property in general. What you need to do to maintain a property in good order. And then subsequently, would have been 2007 again. In that time, we bought property in Manchester for my daughter to go to Manchester Uni. So it wasn't quite an accidental landlord. It was always the intent to retain it. But the overriding drive was to provide a property for Charlotte to go to uni.
Which flows quite nicely onto the project development that you've picked. It's actually a student one.
Yes, it is.
I believe. Rock Lodge.
Rock Lodge up in Sunderland. Or up on a cross in Sunderland. Nice little development. 30 units initially. We managed to put another unit in there, altering the development. 31 units in all. Started at 60, went through to 70 with just one at 75 because of the size of the studio. All self-contained. Perfect student accommodation.
It was an old retirement home, wasn't
it?
Was. I think there was initial problems with the planning on it, and actually it was always meant to be a student development.
The council made an error on it, I believe.
Yeah.
It was the council that converted it into a retirement home, and then realised they didn't have the correct planning.
Yeah.
Because it was student planning, not care home planning. But just as an aside, you question the locals, would they prefer a retirement home or a student home? I don't know.
That's it.
It was our good fortune.
That's it. And experienced developers that we worked with, Neil and Mark, obviously went in, took over the building with it. It was in immaculate condition, I think, because it had been recently renovated, hasn't it? I think at the retirement sort of side, so there wasn't a huge amount of works needed for it. And right by the sea as well, it was a stunning location.
Just a couple of minutes down to Roker, is it Roker?
Yeah, Roker Beach. Yeah.
Just a couple of minutes down to Roker Beach. Walk through the park to get to the university, and we sold it, I think, probably early part of that year, with a completion for September.
Yeah.
The works were done when the current people moved out.
Yeah.
About a 3-month project.
It wasn't a long build, was it?
On the renovation. Primarily just decoration, really, wasn't it?
That's it.
And then September, get my brain into gear, September 23, it completed.
Yeah.
And students started to move in.
So this is what was known as the PBSA, which we've talked about on the course, purpose-built student accommodation. So they're all studio units, like you say, Andrew. They had the little kitchenettes within them. They all had en suites, everything like that.
That's right.
Rents per week, what were we talking around?
We were quoting sort of around the sort of 150, 160. First year, that's roughly what they were achieving, 150, 165. This year, we're looking at sort of 160, 180.
Yeah.
There's quite a large unit in there, about 35 square metre, and that is skewing the figures maybe because it's commanding a higher figure. But we're around that sort of 160, 170
that's it.
Per week, and most of them are on a 51-week term, which make a big impact.
That's it. But the developer itself actually offered a rental guarantee, which again we talked about on the course. So just talk us through of what the offering was, when they get paid, that sort of thing.
So the development completed in September.
Yeah.
That's when. So if we start at the beginning, the reservation process, it was a £3,000 reservation fee to the developer as opposed to ourselves.
Yeah.
That formed part of the exchange monies, and on exchange they were paying 50% of the purchase price. So if we round figure, it was 60k.
Yeah. They
would pay a 3k reservation fee and then 27,000 on exchange.
Yeah.
At that point, they get registered
title
interest in the property because it's an existing building. So whilst it was off plan, if you want to call it that, it was an existing building. It wasn't new build. So it was a virgin plot of land.
Yeah.
And then September they completed.
Yeah. Completed all the refurb works,
and another 50% paid on completion.
Yeah.
Then the assured return kicks in, 2 years at 10%.
Yeah.
And that was a net 10%, so there were no additional costs to the investors. So the service charge was covered, the management fee from the local letting agent was covered, and no ground rent because of the way it was structured. First payment 23rd of December 23, and then every quarter thereafter. So it's paid quarterly in arrears. Which allows the developer to get the students in, to get the first rents coming in, and makes the whole thing tick very nicely.
That's it. I think crucially on this one as well is it naturally yields 10% as well.
Yes, it does.
We've talked about this quite a lot of, yes, you can be off the rental guarantee, but just try and put that to one side and look at the mechanics of it. We've got the checklist thing that you can use, in the course of it, and you type it in, and like you say, with the rents that it's currently achieving, the service charge, it is naturally achieving that. So crucially, when it comes down,
if you're looking at say a rent of 150, because I can do that in my head over 50 weeks, let's say it's 7,500.
Yeah,
we were looking at a service charge and management fee of 1,750.
Yeah.
So again, you're coming out with somewhere in the order of 6-ish.
Yeah.
Just around the 6. Bought at 60.
Yeah.
There's your 10%.
Yeah.
With the running costs taken out, so it's not as though the developer is having to top those running costs up.
That's it.
So, as you say, naturally achieving those figures.
Yeah, but I think key points of why it sort of stood out, for me on it was obviously, like you say, it was close distance to the university.
Yep.
Low purchase prices, like you say, around the sort of £60,000. You had that rental assurance. Nice area, as we said, not just with the unit. Yes. So there's 4 key things there, I think, that to me, well, to all of us really, it stood out, didn't it? And why it ticked a lot of boxes.
Ticked a lot of boxes, I think, you're right. And 2 of those, I think, is the low entry fee.
Yeah.
And we have to bear in mind it was a cash entry.
Yes, good point.
Purchase, as opposed to financed. Although, having said that, one of our buyers did finance. The rate was high.
Oh, yeah.
But Roger did finance.
Yeah.
He bought 2 units at 50% loan to value.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they valued up. That was the other key thing. They valued up to what we were selling.
Yeah.
So it was low entry,
10%
assured, known developer, and the proximity to the beach, to the university, and Sunderland in general.
Yeah. And in terms of the type of investor then that particular development suited?
I think it was the sort of investor that was looking for income as opposed to capital growth.
Yeah.
There will be an element of capital growth if the rents continue to improve, but it was more an income generator, that 10% on your 60 or 65, with it being a net as well. So you couldn't achieve that in the bank. And even today, I don't think you would be achieving anywhere near that if you left your 60k in the bank. With inflation running at, say, 3.8 as it is now, it very quickly erodes that capital in the bank. You have to make it work harder for you.
Yeah, and it stood out, I think, especially to a lot of overseas investors that I wanted that hands-off, don't want to be getting involved with it, just want a steady income, like you say. It ticked all those.
And I think you look at the letting company, the management company that the developer was using, they're established in Sunderland, already managing a lot of student units in Sunderland, and they've gone on to manage a second scheme that we sold in Sunderland, Fawcett Street. So a lot of knowledge with Brendan.
It's a good point, actually, because I think maybe some investors might just look, well, I'm getting a rent guarantee. It doesn't matter what management company they're using, but it does, because realistically, Brendan and his team will carry on the management long beyond the guarantee.
So collectively, they will continue to use Brendan. There's no necessity to, but it would make an awful lot of sense. He's a very established letting agent in Sunderland.
That's it. Brilliant. Yeah, so as I say, a real good PBSA development, that one. A lot of people who've had a lot of success from it and bought again on the back of it.
You were talking about the investor that bought into Rock Lodge. Some of those went on to buy into Fawcett Street.
Yeah.
They had 18 months worth of payment and the knowledge of how Rock Lodges work that they bought again into Sunderland.
Yeah.
They were committed to the city.
Yeah, that's it. Brilliant. Thanks, Andrew. Really appreciate you going through that case today.
You're welcome.